Welcome back to the Nullified Take channel on YouTube, where we've got the TNT takes for you on Survivor 46, episode 8. I'm your host, Chris, and with me again today is my fellow co-hosts, Kahuna and Jake. And you know it's going to be a very good podcast, Jake, when everybody gets into the live beforehand, and I'm like, shh, don't talk, don't say anything, let's hit record, let's get going, because I'm sure there's going to be some hot takes from all three of us here, Jake.
Yeah, we don't want to waste anything on the pre-talk. I mean, come on, we got to save that for the actual show. I think I have no clue what either of you are going to say about this. I like what about how people acted, or what they should have done. I have no idea, but
yeah,
we'll
and
see.
that's exactly why I said, let's try and curb the enthusiasm when it comes to wanting to talk about it, because we want the reaction to be genuine in front of the live audience. We want to react to the episode in front of the live audience, because there was a lot going on this episode, Kahuna, and we're probably going to annoy the audience a little bit, because I don't want to talk about the end of the episode right at the start. And then we've spoken about the biggest thing that happened. So I am going to try. Normally we talk about a little bit of everything, but I'm going to try and stay away from the outcome of the episode until we get later into the podcast, because I feel like we run the risk of starting on a high and then missing out a lot of the things that happened prior to the end. Would you agree with that?
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough because the end was like some of the craziest shit I've seen on Survivor. So I'm excited for it because that was wild. But there's certainly a lot to talk about in the rest of the episode as well, and I'm happy to discuss all the goings on and what is actually turning out to be an fascinating season of. I think that's a good word. Fascinating season of Survivor. I didn't use good. But I don't know. It's certainly incredibly entertaining and very interesting, these last two episodes. But where that sort of shakes out as far as quality wise in the end and where we rank is going to be a very fascinating sort of journey for this show now, I think.
So you both have podcasted with me long enough to know that I am team TV all the time. Anything that brings the drama, anything that brings the entertainment, I love it. So this season is slowly but surely winning me over. I'm slowly but surely getting into I'm loving the chaos. I don't like game bot play. I don't like people doing the obvious thing. So for me personally, I am higher on it now than what I was in the beginning. Again, is there issues with New Age Survivor? 100%. And are we repeating some of the same things in exactly the same order? 100%. I'm still seeing it. I'm not ignoring it, Jeff, but the chaos that this cast is bringing to the show, I think it could be the most chaotic season by the end of it. Maybe because of one player, maybe because of a couple of players that is in the game right now that people love or hate. And we'll definitely get into it. But I want to say hello to a few people here in the live. Chris coming in hot, saying, I do not care to be here anymore. I would like to be voted out. I'm serious. I'm prepared to walk out of this live so that others may continue to watch in my absence. Very, very interesting. None of us want you to go, Chris. Can we talk about this? You did not tell us about this prior to the live. I feel a bit blindsided here.
Chris is a grown woman. She can make her own decisions if that's what she wants.
No. We had plans coming into this live that Chris would be here, and she's just saying, "Oh no, actually, I'm just going to leave." What? We had plans set up. This is ridiculous.
And Chris, maybe you were a part of my plans for 4 lives from now, and now suddenly you want to remove yourself from the equation. I had you in the end game of this podcast.
We're not just going to
plan.
Maybe we should just vote out. Maybe we should just vote out Chris.
Right?
Listen, out of here. None of that talk. Jake, you and I will continue this podcast from now on. Never mess with the guy with the I'm Jeff in this situation. Okay, I've got the torch snuffer. I'll snuff you in this live. Let's see who else is here. We've got Kiwi Skid. We've got Daryl. Saying Q did not throw the challenge last episode, and in this episode he did quit. That's going to be a big part of the conversation later on. But like I said, we're going to do our best to hold off on that for now. We don't want to get into the juicy bit right from the start. Danika's here as well. Doesn't understand Q's logic. Chris, I like you. He's so out there. The chaos I need on this show. So Chris gets me. She knows what I'm talking about. I love that. I love that wild nature of his at the moment. Sarah saying, I love the Nullified theme every time. Thank you so much. We've also got Jay here. We've got Nunes in here as well. Chris, yeah, no quitting on us, okay? Yeah, let's get into the beginning of this episode, right? So we go
By
back.
the way, can I just say, I was really impressed by that. We didn't line that up. That was not planned or rehearsed at all. I'm really happy that all three of us did that. Really good job, guys.
Let's toot our horn for a second. Yeah.
Just for a second. I reckon the real champion in this was Chris. She gave us the layup and we just played with it, like, to be honest. So shout out to Chris for setting it all up. But Survivor 46, episode 8, let's get into it. We go back to camp. It's interesting to see a lot of the dynamics play out from that first group that came back first. You know, a lot of them are choosing to console Ben in this moment. Ben is a soft, great soul, you know, maybe not meant for the game, but, you know, he's a good guy and everybody wants him to feel okay. But Q immediately wants to play. He wants to go into game mode, Jake. And, you know, one of the hallmarks of a great Survivor player is being able to control your emotions. And we see him really struggling with that here early on in this episode. What was your thoughts about this, where he doesn't have the ability to switch the game off, where the others just want to have a moment there? And did you agree with him that they had little valuable time before the second group got back and he wanted to talk to his key people to figure out who was going to be the next person to get into the alliance, I guess?
I get it, you know, but you sometimes, and this is a problem for Q, very big problem for Q. Sometimes you got to let others sort of do their own thing sometimes, especially when it's like this, when it's like they're just talking to him after his closest ally was voted out. Like, just let it just be cool for a minute. You know, I know that, like, but is it really that crucial that you missed out on that, on those moments? I don't know. I mean, I understand what he's trying to say of, like, okay, before everybody comes back, let's take advantage of this. But I don't know. I thought it was a bit of overreaction, but he just cannot. He's like, if I feel like it needs to happen, it needs to happen. And he just can't get past that.
Yeah. It's so interesting, Kuna, because again, I feel conscious about this now. Damn you, Chris. But you know, Tony, like, and I have to bring it up 6 minutes in. Like, he was someone that was very impatient, and he was someone that would, you know, never switch off. And Q has got elements of that, but I think it shows you how difficult it is to play that game, to be paranoid all the time and not alienate people. Not that he's actually alienated people, like all of the people out there either. Like, he does find a way to control it and go sit on the beach on his own, but I don't think it's an easy game to play.
I mean, it's when you say it's actually kind of work, it hasn't backfired on him. That controlling nature is almost like the miracle play. It should have. Like, if anyone shoots that way, they miss 80% of the shots. You know what I mean? Like, your form is messed up, dude. Don't like. But it seems to work for him. There's always that guy that in whatever sport, like basketball is my go-to. Like, you see them, you shouldn't be able to shoot that way, but it just works. The way Q interacts with people should be putting them off in droves. We've seen a little bit of hints from Tiff and Kenzie not liking how he's controlling, but everyone else seems to just flock to him and really like respect him.
Or even Charlie.
Charlie's like, you know, Q's just wishing, like, not to bring him up again, but Q's just wishing, man, why didn't I get Charlie instead of Banu at the start? I could have coached this kid. You know what I mean? Like, he's definitely coachable.
Chris has got a take on it. Says that Q called Banu the Philip. Baby, you are Philip. But I think that Banu's.
I was thinking that watching it.
No, but I think they're two Philips from different seasons. I think Banu was Philip from his first season, and then, you know, Philip in the second season coming back, having power and control. That's the Q currently. So, like, he's that second season Philip coming back, you know. It's such an interesting dynamic. And YouTube Bearcat said Banu was not the only person who was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and Yanu. So true, so true.
You know how, Chris, you always say you don't like to listen to other podcasts because you get the take in your head? I heard I heard something about the cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and they this other podcast called No Buffs. They basically said, what if it's like a haunting at this tribe where once one person leaves, it's the
Crazy.
cocoa for crazy for Cocoa Puffs just goes to the next person. So
Yeah,
like
I can see
Liz was
that.
like freaking out and stuff. Jelinsky was a weirdo. Once he was gone, it went to Liz, and Liz left. Banu started going off the rails. He seemed all right at the start. And then
You mean
once
Jess?
Banu's
It's
Jess, not Liz.
Yeah.
Jess, sorry, Jess. She was freaking out due to lack of sleep and all that. But whatever it is, it's passed from one to the next, and it's currently sitting very heavily on Q's shoulders.
Q. Yeah. So it's basically the legacy disadvantage in the game that is getting passed on to one player after the other when they get voted out.
Is this a Ghost Island season?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like
so.
it. Yeah. The ghost of the cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs disadvantage being handed over to each one of these people. And who's next? Like, is it gonna, if Q goes home next episode, who's gonna be the next one that's gonna be cursed by it? Is it more likely for Kenzie or Tiff to be cursed by that if that happens next? That's the real question I want to know, Kahuna, out of the two of them.
It's
but
crazy.
I feel like it's gonna go to Tiffany. She's gonna do some weird thing with her idol, and then it's gonna go to Kenzie.
Probably. But I feel like we do need to touch on the fact that, there was this moment in the early stages of this episode where Kenzie said, you're so different now that you've got food in you, because we didn't see this cue in the pre-merge when he was starved for food. Like, he was actually quite lethargic, didn't really have the same kind of energy that he has now. And he's changed so much since he's gone to the merge here. It's insane, Jake, what food can do to you in the game. And again, I feel like this is why food should be a thing in Survivor. You should get the bare essentials. And I know they're doing it because they're 26 days, which no one has asked for. Go back to 39 days, but give them a little bit of food, because a little bit of food brings out crazy in some people. It gives people the ability to strategize and think and overthink, it's a different game right now. And I'm enjoying the post-merge so much more than the pre-merge.
Yeah, I think that, Jeff sort of likes the moments where people are so deprived and they like mess up on something and they're like, oh, sorry, Jeff, I'm just so hungry. I'm so tired. And he's like, wow, amazing. And I think we had it last season with Jake. Jake was at Tribal Council, kind of similar to Jess this season, where he asked him a question. He like started to say something and then like rambled on, and he was like, whoa, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm sorry, Jeff. Like, let me start over. And Jeff was like, this is amazing. Like, he's like, we're seeing it right now. The deprival of food from Survivor. Incredible. And I'm just like, I don't want that. Like, that's like hard to watch. Like, I know that Jake, is a very entertaining guy, and maybe he could have done better in the game if he wasn't.
He was broken.
Yeah, exactly.
He passed out nearly twice.
Exactly. It's like
broken man.
It's like, well,
if you sobbing at the end.
Yeah, what made Jake great on the show was not the fact that he was deprived of food. It was just him as a person. So, I agree. We're seeing it with Q. They win one challenge and get some food, and he's like, I'm suddenly like, I have the ability and capacity to run this entire game and show. Like, yeah, I want to see.
You know what I put it down to? Here's a hot take. This is out. This is some Q level thought. It's not that he got food in him and he's out all of a sudden able to be paranoid and excitable and blah blah blah. I think this is the downward slope of his descent into madness. Like, we see him at the start being a little bit more chill, and now he's snapped. It was he's like Jack in The Shining, where at the start he had some tasks to do, but as they kept getting beaten down and lost, he's sitting there doing nothing. Now he's in the he's Johnny phase. And he's had what is it? No TV, no food, no rice, no food makes you go something.
Crazy? I don't know.
Don't mind if I do. Yeah.
This is crazy, guys. I've never seen The Shining.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but
I
there's
need to
also
see it.
I mixed references there. It was like The Shining with the Simpsons parody of The Shining and stuff. So it was
God.
I kind of mixed it up there. But I think it's just him like getting like worse and worse out there from being tired, being hungry, being not in control, spiraling, all that sort of thing. And he's acting.
Oh, he's got
out,
major
man.
control issues. He's got
Yeah.
major control issues. That's the biggest downfall to Q in this game, and where I think he's losing the game is the fact that as soon as things don't go his way exactly like he wants, he no longer wants to play. He's that kid on the play yard that says, screw you guys, I'm going home, I'm not playing any longer, basically, if people don't follow his rules. And that's really where the issue is coming in. There's a couple of great comments coming through. Daryl says he can't wait for season 40 several. Obviously, Jelinski is the gift that keeps on giving. And I feel like at this point, Jeff's kind of just bought into the whole Jelinski legend of it all. So I actually think Jelinski's got a shot at coming back, like just because he's been such a presence. Yeah, best first boot ever, such a big presence. Like, I mean, he did it once before with Francesca, so I wouldn't be surprised if he tries something with Jelinski in the future.
What's so funny is Jelinski, after he was voted out, he said, he's like, oh yeah, like I'm so, happy that I got to be on this show. I actually become like a legend in the rest of the season. You'll see. And everyone was like, yeah, right. Yeah, right.
No one believes it.
Yeah, and then he was like, he said that they almost named the Merge Tribe after him, and we were like,
no, I kind of believe it.
I believe it too. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I think it's true because he also said Q was the one that wanted to quit the Savvy Challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, or the Sweat Challenge. Sorry, and no one believed him. I believe him. Justice for Jelinski. Justice for Jelinski. Like nobody believing his exit interviews. Literally, he deserves
needs to get the CA award. We need to make it happen. Jay says the Q skirt. You better buy one, Chris. As someone that's in the sales industry and have managed many salespeople, coached many salespeople in my time. I would have to give Jay full marks on how he sold that Q skirt. Like, listen. He was going all in, building some real value there on the beach for everybody to buy a Q shirt. And, even getting Tevin to admit, like, listen, I'd buy one of those damn things, So you got Chris saying, I'm prepared to invest in the Q skirt. I go to a lot of concerts. He sold me on using all of it. So what's that?
Yeah. I'd buy 3 so I get the free one.
Yeah, buy 3 to get the free one. Yeah, he had all the skills there in that little clip as well. But very, very interesting. Now, let's switch up to Tevin a little bit. Tevin getting back into camp and Venus talking about, how she pulled off this magnificent blindside and so much fun. But it reminded me of that picture, that meme that you get with the person in the church and then you've got someone behind them with a gun, and then you've got the one person in the balcony at the back with the sniper rifle that's aiming at the guy with the gun behind the person at the front. And that person was Liz, right? Because Tevin was laughing at Venus's expense because she thought she was the mastermind. We spoke about it in the previous podcast and did a really good job to let her have her moment and then laugh behind her back, but not realizing that he was alienating Liz because Liz was also very much an integral part of that vote. And he's telling Liz to her face, I'm the one who pulled off that move. And Venus thinks it was her. I mean, listen, Liz has got multiple businesses. She's a businesswoman. Like somewhere inside of her, people who run businesses and get that level of success, we laughed at her expense in the beginning of the season, but they're not normal people. Normal people don't have multiple businesses. Normal people don't reach that level of success. They're definitely competitive. And Kahuna, he misread Liz so badly in the situation, which ended up being his downfall in this episode.
Liz is almost just as crazy as Q, by the way. Like, for her to, man, like, she said she has an ego and all that sort of thing, which was obviously in here, but like, I get that she was part of the vote and agreeing with Tevin and even having the idea is not the same as pulling it off. Like, she did not gather the votes. She did not pull in Maria and Charlie and foster those relationships, right? Like, she keeps saying that it was all her because she was like, yeah, I've been waiting for you to ask me. Like, what do you mean? That is so crazy. Like, Venus, I think, has a little bit more. She did the same talks. She just didn't realize it wasn't her influence that actually made it happen. She tried to get the votes online, so she thinks she did it because it came off. Liz didn't do anything but say yes when Tevin came to her, and is now like.
Can I add to this though? There was a level of awareness from Liz in this episode that, wait a minute, I've had someone else run my game, and that's Tevin. So I don't think she necessarily thought she was the mastermind on her own, but she felt like she was an integral part of that vote because they had that conversation on the beach. So she's like, okay, clearly Tevin doesn't see me as an equal. Clearly Tevin is running circles around everyone and he's become too dangerous. How do I claim that move going forward? Well, I take out my right-hand person. I take out the person who was the ringleader. So I think personally, like, I agree with Chris. Like, I may have found someone that I'm standing this season. I don't know if she can win it because she's been telling everybody how rich she is. But, you know, I love the fact that Liz has come to play, Jake. How often in the past do we see the second in charge, the lieutenant, not realize their position, not realize there's someone else running the game right now? I need to take this person out to be able to claim their moves.
Let me just say, like, I've got some egg on my face for what I've said about Liz. Like, I literally, like, verbatim basically said the opposite of what she was able to realize this episode. Or sorry, what she was able to realize this episode. I said she is going to be basically the right-hand man to either Tevin or somebody else making moves, and she is going to think that she was this huge part of it, not realizing she's not going to get any piece of credit for this whatsoever, and she's just going to be going through the game, not even, just so blissfully unaware. No, it took one vote for her to be like, oh shit, like, I'm not in this. Like, nobody's giving me my props at all. You would say because she doesn't deserve any, but to her, she feel like she does, and she's not getting it. So she's like, okay, I got to take the game.
I got to take it.
Yeah. She said, she's like, I'm getting lost in the shuffle right now. I'm not going to let that happen.
Man.
Yeah.
I love it. What was your thoughts there, Kuna?
Yeah. I was just going to say, like, I agree. Like, I do think it was a reaction. Like I'm saying, her ego was saying I did more than she actually did. But I do think you're right that she's seeing the writing on the wall of how she's going to look. So she's trying to take control of that. But isn't it fascinating that realization came off of both Venus and Tevin?
Yes.
Talking too much.
It was
claiming,
the double.
Like, double mistake. Like, it wasn't when Venus did it. It was like she was like, "Oh, Venus is taking credit for my idea," and then Tevin just doubles down.
Like, wait a second. Yeah, I'm getting doubly lost in the shuffle. Yeah,
he did come to the right decision, but it took two huge. Like, when I talked before about the season is certainly fascinating, if not good, like as far as making the right decisions. These are two huge mistakes. And they're just lucky Q wasn't there as well, because he sees everyone's mistake. That was a mistake. He made it. They made a mistake. Like, so these two made a mistake.
Liz, no. He would have been like, Liz staying quiet in that moment and not trying to take a little bit of the ownership there as well. That means she can hide in plain sight. I need to worry about her in the next tribal council. I need to vote her out because she's got
Liz
restraint.
Made a mistake.
Liz made a mistake.
I'm gonna cancel Christmas.
Q made a mistake. Q made many mistakes, but he made a mistake when he didn't take out Liz, because Liz found him in hide and seek, guys.
Yes.
She was the one.
That's right.
Yeah. Just before we get into hide and seek, I do want to talk about Charlie being pulled into the alliance by Q. Q going up to Charlie saying, hey, Maria's going to come up to you. She's going to have a conversation, this and that. Charlie is picking up what he's putting down. Like a real mop boss here. But I want to kind of pat us on the back. We called it, didn't we? We said, like, listen, Charlie's probably going to get pulled in Tim's place because Maria's a part of the six. Q's really hot on the six, wants the six to work together. And it kind of played out exactly in that fashion. But Charlie, hats off to him, because I've been low on Charlie at times because they've made him the Taylor Swift guy the whole season. That's his thing, and it's annoying to me. But, he does have some good reads in the game. Like, immediately when Maria's like, yeah, this is the group we're going to go with, he says, this is like the most shaky six in the history of Survivor. Like, something's going to happen. Plus, I don't want to go to the end with these people who I can't beat at the end. So I thought there was some great observations from the likes of a Charlie in the game. And clearly, Jake, he's someone that's got some really good game skills. He's just not been in a position of power where he's been able to do any damage at this stage.
Yeah. I kind of said it earlier, Charlie has said, like, Q, oof, what a piece of work, like he got it as like telling me exactly what to do. Like I have to go through all these like initiation steps to get into this alliance. He was able to convince Maria, basically, not really directly, but kind of indirectly convince her to not tell him about this alliance. Her closest ally doesn't even know about this secret alliance that she's in. And when she tells him about it, he's like, "Oh, great. Yeah, let's do it." Later he voices his, some of his objections with this, which I thought was good. But, he is sort of like, he's taking the power, which he sees in front of him, that's going to get him a few more votes in the future, get him through some votes. And I think that's good. Yeah, I like where Charlie's at right now.
Yeah, I think he's in a good position in the game. It's interesting how Maria and Charlie sees Q as this person that honors loyalty. And as soon as you go against the loyalty, they're reading him correctly, then he's not going to want to work with them in the future. So I kind of wonder if there is a world now. We can't talk too much about hindsight of how this episode ended, but I still think, Kahuna, there is a way where they could want to work with Q in the future because he can't really lie. And if you understand his quirks, he does become quite predictable. It's just when he's at loggerheads with you on who needs to go home, that's where it's really hard. Can you truly work with someone that doesn't want to bend when you've got a different idea to them? I think that's what it's going to come down to. But I kind of felt like we were seeing enough between the conversation between Maria and Charlie here where they kind of seem to want to work with Q in the game. And Q's going to, I don't know if he's going to look for numbers or how this thing's going to, play out in the next episode, but I can see a world where Maria and Charlie and Q do still work together in the next round.
It's tough, man, because like if someone's not willing to bend, then you have to trust and hope that they're making the right decisions, right? They have to be smart enough and strategic enough that if you're going to go with their decisions because they're not going to do anything else, then they have to be the right ones for the game, right? Like if it was King George, I would trust that he knows what he's doing enough that I don't have to fight him on his choices. But if you do that, then Q's making all the decisions. And when you get to the end, because it worked so successfully, he's made all the decisions, he's driven thing, and you're just the person that went along for the ride and you can't win. So it's not a good position to be in with a player that is so inflexible, not only to the point of working with you, but then sharing any of that credit that we see Venus and Tevin and Liz fighting over so violently, willing to take each other out, kind of thing, So that is definitely going to go up when you're working very strongly with someone like Q, because he's so in control that you can't look like you have anything to contribute either.
Yeah, totally agree. Chris here says the Alliance of Six will never end, only because every time they vote someone out, they recruit a new team member. So it's kind of like they're growing back limbs. But I do think at the end of this episode, I'm going to be shocked if that Alliance of Six do come together.
They're just going to bring in Ben. It'll be
maybe.
Fine. Or Venus.
Maybe. Venus is the perfect person to bring in right now and gaslight her, make her believe she's running the Alliance until the end of the game.
Somehow they should try to lead her to like individually.
You don't need to gaslight her. She does it herself.
That's true.
Yeah, you don't need
to. Goes
no skill required. No skill required. Jay says, I think people will want to keep around as good cuts. Not sure who that is. Keep Q around. That makes sense. Fairy Tiger, welcome back to the live. It's been a while since I've seen you here, my friend. He says, hello, everyone. Awesome content. Season 4 is getting a lot better. I agree. I do like where we're heading into at the moment. Since the merge, it has gotten a lot better, according to Daryl. Daryl also says that, so according to Q's logic, Ben is the most dangerous person in the game because he is the only person who had to come out from hiding in order to find him. And he also said the same thing about Hunter, to be fair. What did you guys think of the whole hide and seek segment? I personally was high on it, but Jake, you're shaking your head.
No.
What was your thoughts
on it? No, I thought it was incredible. I thought it was so fascinating to see Q and Venus too both like psychoanalyzing everybody about what they chose to do. It was
this bandana, man.
it was
Oh,
amazing. Or like Maria putting like a few pieces of I don't even know what it is in her hair, and Venus is
Christ.
like, okay, she's pretty crafty. Like I'll give her some props. And I was like, okay, or like Tiffany, she said she's sloppy because she forgot to take her buff off. When she or what is also funny to me is that Q with Liz, he said that she was the one that found him, and then he said she's actually she wants to play, she's trying to make it seem like she doesn't want to, but she does. And then what happens the same episode? Liz comes out of her shell and is like, okay, we need to vote out Tevin, and then everybody goes along with it. Like Liz orchestrated this move today, and Q like called it basically. And so that makes his comments about Ben even more fascinating to me, because it's like, were they showing clearly Q said something about everybody. Are they showing the ones that actually were true?
It's interesting. Could be. Q could be seen as
could he be right about what Ben is saying? I don't know.
Like Q could be the crazy mastermind of the season. Like I loved, this is why for me, and we will talk about the end, knowing even how this episode ends, like I applaud production for casting Q. One of the best casting choices that we've seen since season 40 on the show. So entertaining. Does he annoy the crap out of me every time he wants to quit? Yes. But if you take that and look at it in a vacuum, what he brings from an entertainment standpoint is unparalleled for me at this point, right? Playing hide and seek as a grown-up on a game for $1 million, like Tiffany said, who would have thought, that they were going to do something like that on Survivor? And so much fun. Loved what he was saying about different people. I loved the fact that he was going down the whole route of, I'm going to like analyze like different things about people to see how it can relate to the game. I don't know if he's going to be accurate, but definitely from a competitive standpoint, I would have said, Hunter being in the tree, to me, if I was playing the game, I would have been like, this guy clearly is playing hard. Like the fact that he wanted to win this badly, that he was willing to risk injury in a game for $1 million, right? Climbing a tree, to me, he's dangerous. I need to get rid of him. So that was for me 100% a giveaway that Hunter is probably playing harder than what people think.
I really liked how Q phrased it. He didn't say that he's just going to play hard just in general. He said, no, if he's willing to do whatever it takes to win at hide and seek, he's doing whatever it takes to take me out. He had to make it about him. It's like, what does that have to do with you specifically?
Hunter's your boy. Like him and Hunter are supposed to be like this at the moment. They're in the 6. Like he should be voted. That's probably why he wanted to vote himself out, because he went after someone in the 6, and it's his rule. Like if you go after someone in the 6, you can be out of the game.
That's great.
That's his own logic that caught up with him in this episode. Let's see what Daryl says. So according to Q's logic, Ben is the most dangerous person in the game because he's the only person who had to come out of hiding in order to find. I do think, and similar to Hello here, hello to Hello, says Hunter didn't have to come out. They caught him, but the time limit exceeded. Ben was never caught. They had to say, Ben, we give up. Who knows if Ben would have ever been caught? And I think that they didn't show it, but while they were in camp, like Q finally looks up and spots him. I feel like Hunter probably started making like a noise up there or something to get caught, because the game was over. So he wasn't actually still trying to hide at that point. But how genius is it, Kahuna, of all places, that you're going to sit in a tree right by camp and top it? Because that's the last place people are going to look, right? Because he could have been sitting in any tree, but he chose one in camp.
Were you a little bit disappointed that the teaser trailer from last week gave us Hunter in a spy shack, and it was more hinting at like he's listening or like spying?
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Hide and seek. Like it was amazing that he, like, I don't think it was a risk for him at all. Like, we saw him later in the challenge, like he's comfortable climbing trees, like he's good. So as far as risking life and limb, he was just having fun up there. He was chilling. I think he was almost falling asleep at some point, probably. But that's 100%. Hugh is giving so much entertainment, though, to even come up with this idea. And what's crazy about it is that he wasn't thinking about production or cameras or TV or anything. He was genuinely wanting to analyze their hide and seek game. Like he knows, like that was his idea. I can watch them and I will get like he is so entertaining. You want to know something else that's I only found out this episode that's entertaining about Q? And I may say something that puts a few people off, but yesterday I watched this episode yesterday in Australia. It was April 20, 420 in the US today. So I was watching it. And I don't know if you noticed this, but the night vision cameras, here's something new entertaining about Q. His tattoos. I was like, they're crazy. There's a lot of them. And you can't see it during the daylight. So then the rest of the episode, I'm trying to see if I can see his tattoos. But the night vision like makes everything look, and Kenzie's tattoos and stuff, everything looks completely.
He's got like, he's writing down his plans like as his tattoos. He's hiding them in plain sight and nobody's paying attention to them.
It's Michael Schofield. He's writing up the plans to get out of Survivor and for them to finally vote him out. Like he's got a plan to escape the island, and it's all written on his body. No, I didn't even notice that he had tattoos at all. So that's
what I'm saying. I didn't notice either. So then the rest of the episode, I'm trying to see them in the daylight, and but the night vision like made him. I was like, whoa, he's got a lot of tattoos.
I need to go back and watch.
Yeah,
I need to go back and watch the episode again.
He brings different things that you didn't even think about.
Yeah, there's layers to this guy. There's many layers to this guy. R. Nunes is saying, is Venus trying too hard and failing at the social aspect? I don't think she deserves the hate she gets from some people. From me, there's absolutely no hate to Venus. I do think that she is socially very unaware, and she's just young and naive. And like I said in the previous podcast, if we get to see Venus come back and play at maybe the age of 30 or something, I think it would be a very different Venus playing the game. But she's just young and I think making a lot of mistakes at this stage. But again, I kind of like Venus. Like, bring her back. Like, the fact that we've got a Q and a Venus in the same season, these are the kind of characters that make for great entertainment when it comes to reality TV. So to me, there's no hate, definitely not. But I don't think I think where the pushback comes is that there are a certain segment of people online that thinks that Venus is an amazing game player, which she clearly isn't. And then there's the other segment that is pushing back against that. So you've got the for and against Venus for those kind of reasons online, I think. Hello says Hunter and Ben both did hide. Ben had to reveal himself. We saw that one. Chris says, I hate that some people were complaining about hide and seek. This is good camp life. Totally agree with that. Jay says, that's what I said earlier, that Q is the best casting choice in the new era. Totally agree with you, Jay. Great minds think alike. Sarah says, I really don't think it shows any strategy. For example, if I'm playing hide and seek, I'm very clumsy and would just hide the closest spot because of my disability. But Q would be like, big mistake.
That would be a big mistake,
Sarah. Yeah. She made a mistake.
Would be he'd be like, big mistake because, or would it be? I feel like he'd probably look at it and say, well, Sarah's easy to find. I know where she is in the game. Like, who knows what his logic would be? Like,
his logic, like,
but he wants him to play the game. He wants to play like Q plays the game.
Yeah,
you have to play a Q game.
Yeah,
Tim played a Tim game. Tiffany is now playing a Tiffany game.
This is getting insane.
Charlie's playing a Charlie game. They can't.
Jake's lost in the sauce.
A Q game.
Jake is completely lost in the sauce right now. Like, I feel like Jake is going to go out there and play a Q game if he was to go and play Survivor.
What if I did? No, I'd be playing a Jake game.
You play the Jake game. So Daryl says, to me, it's just a show. Hunter likes hiding in trees. I don't think it's that deep.
No, it is.
Joke.
He made a big
goes
mistake.
after them all the time.
If Jake moved his camera right now, you just see the board with all the red lines and the picture.
Yeah. If Jake moves his camera, he's got Q's tattoos mapped out on a whiteboard, and he's trying to decipher the Q game plan to Survivor. He's got it all written down. What is that? You have playing the game. What? You
have to play a Q game.
Yeah.
Right, there you go.
One thing I wrote down. Those are my notes on how I need to play. These are my notes on how I need to play Survivor if I get on the show.
Sarah says, this is the best podcast ever. Why isn't Liz sponsoring it with her stacks of cash? I totally agree.
We've talked about this before. It needs to happen.
Yeah.
Chris saying my
And have all
eyesight
the
is
email
too bad for
addresses.
this nonsense. It felt like me trying to like squint reading it. And my eyesight's okay. I couldn't read it. Anyway, so let's move on from this whole Q madness with the hide and seek. A lot of fun for sure, but we move into the immunity challenge, and at the immunity challenge, we do have that moment where Jeff says, "Who's going to sit out? 4 people sit out for some rice." How excited were you, Jake, to see this play out this season? It's been a while since we've had this dilemma on Survivor. Did it do anything for you?
The outcome actually did, because it was something different. They were like, no, like, we want to play, even though we'll get into how you just said we're not going to talk about Q, but we have to, because he's everywhere in this episode. Q's reaction to the deal not getting done was, I think he was a bit warranted, because like him, a lot of people dropped out almost immediately. And so it's
but Jeff would have lasted more than 10 seconds at least.
Oh, Sassy Jeff. I love that.
Their whole, I gotta say, I really like how Jeff has been interacting with the cast.
He's taking notes from JLP, I reckon, man.
Yeah. This episode specifically, there was a lot of good banter between them.
Yeah.
Now, this is the Jeff we remember from the early days. Jeff from the early days did not take any crap from any of the castaways, and he's kind of getting back to that. So he did. This is the thing with Jeff. I feel like if you nag him long enough about certain things, he's eventually going to listen.
You kind of have to push his buttons a little bit, just a little bit.
You gotta push his buttons. Like,
what I was disappointed with Jeff in this challenge is, I don't know if he caved to like Twitter or whatever it is, but they took away his knife. Do you remember what happened with the rice sacrifice? He stabbed
the bag of rice, and so it started spilling out, and so they had to quickly...
and I think and there was like people going, "Oh, he's wasting rice. There's all the rice in the sand and all that sort of thing." And this year, it would have been perfect to just like, because they didn't get the rice. No negotiation. No one wanted to do it. They took his knife away. Where's Jeff? Bring back Jeff's knife.
Yeah, well, listen.
I
think he did the countdown. He's like 10, 9, 8. But it was interesting because Jeff seemed.
If you had a knife to the bag while counting down, they would have like.
I'm just over this whole dilemma, to be honest with you. I didn't like the knife. Have the knife there to cut the bag. Didn't matter to me whatsoever. I'm just like, can we move on from this twist? Like, I just don't like it. Yeah, I just don't like this twist. But in any case, this dilemma. But it was interesting because to me, it felt like Jeff was legitimately shocked that people wanted to stay in the game and they didn't want to do it. And obviously, for him, it must have been like, great, we finally had the other outcome. And he's always said, I like to bring something into a game, have different scenarios play out, and then when it's overplayed, I'll move it. So maybe he'll move it now because we've finally seen the other side, but people have gone, actually, my life in the game is more important than the rice. It was interesting, though, when they were trying to negotiate with him, and he's like, no negotiations, and then suddenly he's like, okay, maybe I will do some negotiations. If 2 people are happy to forego their vote, then we could still do it. So it was interesting him on the fly doing that. Obviously, as a producer, he can. No one wanted to do that. Q and Liz had the opportunity to say, like, oh, we've stepped up. Let's just lose our vote. And then, if rice meant that much to them, they could have done that and they could have still had the rice. But, for me, it was interesting. I love this challenge. I did get excited when I saw the classic Survivor challenge come back with them having to be on the poll. Abysmal performance by Liz and Q. And again, I think this talks to just Q's mentality. Like, if things don't go his way, he gets flustered and he doesn't have the ability to clutch up, Kahuna. And you've spoken about this the whole season, to the point where, he does drop out 10 seconds. Like, what the hell? Like, I'm sure most people can last for more than 10 seconds. Like, I would put money on Jeff. Do you think Jeff would have outlasted both of them out there?
Jeff would have been 20 seconds. Yeah, for sure. Jeff would have, but, I've been told constantly it's not about how long. It's the quality of time that when you're there. So I'm banking on that. But yeah, like, it was kind of, Q has shown multiple times, which is why I'm like, I don't understand why people there's any kind of controversy about the ending as well, because he has shown he will quit. He'll quit a challenge. He'll bring it to the thing. Like, that was a quit. he definitely had more than 20 seconds in him, like easily more than 20 seconds in him. Like Liz, I get, like she probably had more than 20 seconds in her as well, but she only went down because she wasn't the first anymore. So she could. Like Q went down immediately. So Liz was like, okay, great, I'm not first. I'll go down too. But like he quit on that. Like, I don't understand why. Like, you weren't going to get the rice anyway. You might as well try to give it a shot. Maybe he saw as well, like, if there's strategy. I understand the strategy of no one's beating Hunter. I'm not blowing out my toes and my hands and hurting myself physically when I'm not going to beat Hunter. There's no point. But I mean, he quit in 20 seconds. It's insane.
Yeah, but Venus clearly was always going to win this, and I loved how, you know, throughout this whole challenge, Jeff was really giving it to Venus as well. Like, Venus getting pretty close to the edge. She was so confident she was going to win this. Like, he was having a lot of fun with that because, you know, Venus said, and not to take too many shots at Venus here because she's got the build of someone who should win this.
Yeah.
She's quite light. Normally it does favor, I think, female competitors when it comes to this challenge. So I understand why she wanted to give it a go, but who would have known that Charlie would have been such a beast on this challenge, as well as Hunter sticking out there right until the end. Hunter, obviously, like you said, this guy climbed a damn tree. Obviously, he was going to be good at being on a pole and sitting that high. But I want to read a couple more comments here that have come in. We've had so many good comments. I find myself wanting to go back to the live all the time here. Daryl is saying they didn't sit out for Rice. They didn't do what Q wanted. So, of course, Q is very upset. He wanted to get out. Danica is asking the same thing you did, Kahuna, asking if Jeff has been secretly watching JLP or listening to the fans, because JLP obviously is spicy as well. But again, I think people forget Jeff used to be that person. JLP kind of has admitted he monitored, especially in the early days, the way he hosted was sort of inspired by Jeff, the early days of Jeff. And now he does have his own style. But let's not forget, Jeff has just moved away from it because he's become more I don't know, soft with old age, I feel like, and maybe he's finding that, you know, within him again, like, and he's listening to fans a little bit when it comes to...
He's going to get older to the point where then he gets more cranky. And get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah.
You both
Q's good. Q's good says, yes, Jeff's interactions has been much better this season. Sarah says the next episode is actually going to be called Spicy Jeff. Can't wait to see Spicy Jeff on the show. I feel like he's going to get spicy towards Q. I'm just putting it out there. Kiwi says, could be Danica. JLP is great. Daryl is saying that it's like Gordon Ramsay. In the early days of Hell's Kitchen, he was more serious, like how Jeff was in the early seasons. Anun is saying, what was the season filmed right after 45? Maybe Jeff is tired and fed up. And then Jay also mentioned, but 46 was filmed before 45 aired, Kahuna, so he wouldn't have known the fans would have reacted to the knife bag in 45 the way they did. So obviously, not knowing how it would be seen, you know, and he could, after the season, he could say no rice bags were harmed in this season, you know, just in case people really felt offended for rice bags out there in the world after he had the knife out. You know, he was playing it safe. He was going 50-50 and then sort of gauging the temperature. Hello is saying Jeff took an L this season with this twist. They legally have to give food after a while. So if everyone stays strong, they can compete and still get rice in a few days. So that's interesting because clearly there must be a limit to how long you can starve people.
Everybody just starts yelling, I know my rights, Jeff. I know my rights.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, okay, fine.
It would be like all those obnoxious cop videos you see on YouTube where people, like, as soon as they get stopped, I know my rights, you can't do nothing, you know, and I'm like, what the hell are we doing here? Hello saying Liz and Q are similar, except Liz keeps her arrogance closer to her chest and Q doesn't. Totally agree. So yeah, lots and lots of people coming in here with some great comments, but ultimately Hunter does win this immunity challenge. And Jake, what does this mean for Hunter in the game now? Because, you know, he is someone that he hasn't had to show too much of his cards. I guess he was really good at the challenges. Everybody knew he was going to be a threat coming into the merge early on, but does this like double down on his threat level now? Like, I feel like, especially at the end of this episode, he also loses Tevin in the game. Like, I'm a bit worried for him. He's got an idol in his pocket, but he can only play that bad boy once.
Yeah, I'm not sure, like, the degree of how much this increases his threat. It definitely does, you know, because just anytime anybody wins an immunity challenge, people are like, oh, so that's possible, you know. But I don't know. I feel like people were already kind of, you know, clocking that, you know. So I'm not really sure if it's going to make that much of a difference.
I think the acrobatics at the end, the little stripper show, maybe added to it. Like that was just rubbing salt in the wounds. Like he didn't need to show. He said, "I still could have done this. Like I've still got this in the bag." I think he said, which is
he looked like he regretted it straight afterwards when like he looked like, you know, that kid that never like brags about anything, and then when he walked back, because Jeff was like, "Oh no," and Jeff started running towards him, like, you know, afraid for him, and then he walked and you could see his head was down, like, "Oh shit, what did I just do?" Like he felt like he was getting scolded by the headmaster in that moment, and he must have been like, "Yeah, I showed off, I didn't need to do that." But you know, Chris has been put on notice. She's very impressed by that thigh strength. I knew she was keeping an eye out for Hunter, especially after we made jokes about you know, what he has in his basement with all the Survivor toys. But yeah, I think Hunter had way too much fun out there, to be honest. And I'm really enjoying Hunter, but does he have a path to the end here? Is what I'm getting at. Like I feel like it's going to be so hard. He's going to have to Mike Holloway his way to the end.
One thing I did pick up about Hunter this episode, he seems to be doing really well, knowing his threat level as far as challenges go. He has done that character of, the Southern boy that doesn't do strategy and doesn't think in the game and stuff. He's played that really well because in this episode, when Q spilled the beans to him and he freaked out, which wasn't great, when he freaked out and said, "I'll go talk to everyone about it," when Q said, "Don't talk to anyone about it." And he goes, "Okay, I'll go talk to everyone about it." That was bad. But I think it was Venus or Kenzie sort of said, Venus said, "What? He's like he's ever discussed strategy before in his life or something." Like there was a comment about
Kenzie who said it.
It was Kenzie, yeah. So like he's obviously downplayed his strategic point of view because I imagine if they thought he played the game at all, combined with his physical attributes, like he'd be gone immediately. So he's playing that down really well to the point where they're commenting and saying he's a dummy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I was just about to bring that up. I was just about to bring that up of like, you know, I think we've heard from him in confessionals, you know, he knows how to play. Like he has good reads on things, but like you said, like I don't think they hold a very high opinion of his strategic intelligence out there, and I'm a little bit worried about that.
Yeah,
I think he's very quiet for the majority of the game. Like he's not really saying much, you know, which means that people are kind of underestimating him based on that. And then he does have self-control as well, because in this episode, when he finds out that Tevin is the main target and that the votes have flipped, he holds back from playing the idol on Tevin. Like he doesn't look at, you know, the option of potentially playing the idol, saving his right-hand person, because, you know, what's the next move? You could say he should have, maybe he shouldn't have. Like if you save someone in the game and they know what came, like will people take the same shot at Tevin the next round? Like, you know, the game is so fluid these days that maybe he could have had that extra number. I'm really worried for him at the moment, because now that he doesn't at least have Tevin in the game, and he also kind of betrayed Q's trust a little bit when Q came to him to tell him that, and he ran straight up to people to have a conversation. Like, I don't know where he's going to land. And that's the problem currently with the dynamics in that tribe, Kuna. I don't know where Hunter goes from here. Like, I'm a little bit worried for him. I feel like,
he's running out of options for sure, especially like Yanu did work with him in the split tribe. Like he said, I want to be part of the 4 kind of thing. So maybe he can play off of that if they're willing to at all. Q, I think in his quit and like he said he made a mistake by telling Hunter about the Tevin vote and all that. So I think Q in his like wanting to mea culpa will actually be willing to work with Hunter, especially with Yanu, because he feels a debt to him that he stuffed up. He made a mistake. He's basically broken the 6 in that regard. So I think he does have an option there. But if everyone's looking at him as not a great player, then maybe he gets dragged along a bit longer as you know, as not a strategic threat. And this class is so unpredictable. Who the hell knows? Like, who knows?
I think Hello's got some interesting takes here. He says that Yanu has worked with Hunter in the split tribe, and then also says that Yanu distrusts with each other. There's distrust within each other, but it doesn't mean that they lost trust with Hunter. Like, if you're Tiff and Kenzie, you still need numbers.
Still like Hunter, yeah.
Yeah, and sorry, he's worked, obviously, with them in that 1 vote, so they could easily bring him in for another vote or a couple of votes. But the problem is, again, how far do you take Hunter in the game before the game goes out of your control, because he's got the threat of being able to win a lot of immunities potentially, and Mike Holloway his way to the end. So, I don't have the answer. I don't have the roadmap for Hunter to the end here.
Yeah, but even if he does, that, like you say, just Mike Holloway, it's like, are they going to be impressed by that? They clearly don't, at least at this point, think that he is strategically involved in anything. They were shocked at the mere thought that he would be talking about strategy. I don't think that's good.
He's also not winning. If he wins the challenges now, at least what's been painted so far is that he's not winning them against the tribe. Like Mike Holloway was like constantly having to win because they wanted him out so bad, and it was a true 6 or 5 challenge, like underdog. He had to win. His life was on the line the entire time. Like Hunter hasn't had that struggle yet. He's winning from a position of so far power. It doesn't have the same story and the same narrative to get any votes.
But in his mind, he was left out of the vote on Tevin, right? He was left out until last minute. Yeah. So it's from this point forward.
Yeah.
So Luciana here says, I think Q's going super far. He probably just lost Tiffany and he is making more enemies than friends. We'll definitely talk about Q, but I just want to go into the split here on the beach, right? So very interesting at the point where Hunter goes and talks to the people that he's worked with before. He gets that group together with Liz included. He's trying to see if there's a way that he can get Tevin off the chopping block. And Venus notices this from the other side of the beach. And bless his soul, we've always said as fans, if you see a group out on Survivor, go and interrupt it. But again, the idea is good, but the approach was so blunt here, Jake, walking up to them saying, hey, you're not allowed to talk right now. You can't strategize. We all need to have conversations. The sun's getting close to being down. Like, what did you think of this approach from her? Because on one hand, you want to applaud her. And the other hand, you're like, could you just have added like a little bit of sugar with that? Like, you were so blunt when you went up to them.
What I thought was hilarious is that the second that she walks away, Hunter's like, can we just vote her out?
Yeah.
Like, just get, and it's like
annoying.
Yeah. And it's just not like, just Venus's approach with people is just not good. And this just is exhibit, 20, of how, that she's just not playing this right.
Yeah. She's like, who's the girl from last season? Emily. She's like her, but she never had the awakening moment that Emily had in that game. So Emily had this moment of the epiphany because she had Caleb that brought her to the realization, I need to change my ways. She just needed, maybe if Raiden was still in the game, he could have been that to her. Like he could have been that person, and she just didn't have him, throughout the game. So she's kind of, you have to understand, she's had her back against the wall for a long time in this game as well. So I applaud Venus for not giving up. I applaud her for having a fight.
This is better. Yeah, this is better than just watching from the sidelines and just
100%.
Seeing them potentially plot against you. So I'm totally with you on that.
Yeah. So obviously we have this moment prior to the tribal council, and then we go to tribal council, and this is where things get spicy. We've left it for quite a bit, but before we even get into the vote, Q confesses, or he says, like, listen, Jeff, there's only one person going home tonight, and it's me. And this causes all sorts of chaos in the tribal council where people are like, we did not even have Q in our minds. He was not on any of our thoughts when we came into this, and he wants to fall on the sword. So I do need to know, Kahuna, what was your thoughts in this moment? Like when you saw Q basically wanting to quit. I know there's some people online that are saying it was part of strategy. Can you enlighten us? Do you think that this was a strategic thing that he was doing?
No,
there, or do you think that he was falling on the sword?
Yeah, he definitely was. Like my reaction immediately, like I may have sworn at my TV because I was this mother again, like with this crap, man. But
he constantly wants to get out of the game. It's not the first time either.
Like people, like even Jeff has come out and said it was not a quit. He thinks it was part of strategy. And I know Q. We've seen it the entire way through. He's traumatized by losing his football game in high school. He was the talk of the town. It was in the newspapers, everything. That was episode 1, right? This man made some big mistake. He made big mistakes. So he was canceling his own Christmas out of honor, out of doing the right thing. He thinks that he was like, actually, look, I don't want to go home. I'm not trying to like quit the game in that I don't want to, but I stuffed up. I take my lumps. Like that's what comes with it. Like if you played the bad game, you lose. Like that's in his head. His very black and white sports sort of mentality is I stuffed up the play. I get benched, coach. Like that's the way it goes. I stuffed up by telling Tevin. I've made a couple mistakes. I have to own that. I'm going home. That's the outcome. I don't want to quit, but that's the rules of my Q game, right? You have to play the Q game, and that's how his brain works. I think that's all it was. He doesn't want to quit, and he's happy to stay, but he was doing the right thing.
Jake, thoughts?
The tables have turned with Q. He was psychoanalyzing everybody else. Now we're psychoanalyzing him. What was going through this man's head in this? And I got to say, I think I'm leaning more towards what Jay is saying in the chat. It's a comment a little bit up. He says that Q will probably say next episode that it was an intentional big brain strategy move. And I completely agree. I think that somehow, some way, this was intentional, and to him, he's gonna claim in hindsight that it was, but it wasn't. We all know it wasn't.
Did he try and strong arm people? Did he go in there by doing this? He was like, everybody loves me this much. They're not going to want to vote me out. So if I tell them I'm ready to go, maybe they'll vote the way I want them to vote. Do you feel like he tried to go and like push his agenda by doing this move? Is that the angle that he's going to take?
I don't know. I mean, this is just so ridiculous. I mean,
I'm saying there is no angle
because Q. I mean, I guess I'm speculating that he's going to claim this as intentional.
He might claim it, but he didn't.
But what I'm saying is, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, because maybe he will admit next episode, like, hey, I tried to quit, but they, kind of roped me back in and gave me a spanking and said, no, you can't quit. But if he does, I mean, what if they were all just like, okay, yeah, like it's
sure.
not us.
You want to go? That's what
Then he would have taken it, because I think that's what he was doing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But
I'll take my punishment.
But if he says that it was intentional, what is going to be his response to that question? Would it be, well, I would have, pushed back on him and said, actually, I'm ready to play. I'm over it. Like I've come to my senses.
If they're all Tevin then, and like,
he's a grown ass man. What I want to know is, like, Jeff sometimes in these moments will go and say, is there any reason to vote tonight, guys? We've got someone who wants to quit. Yeah. Like, are we good? Like, should he just have done that?
Oh my God.
Or like, because he's done that in the past, and what would have happened? Like, is that the way Jeff should handle all these quit situations in the future? Because I feel like the reason Jeff probably didn't do it is because there were people that explicitly said in tribal council, we're not voting you, Q. We don't want you to go. Kenzie made a very interesting observation that I thought was true. Like, him quitting is not the honorable thing, because he's been a part of her game this whole season. He's screwing her and her plans for what she wants to do 3 or 4 tribals from now. So, he's not doing the honorable thing. But there was also the part of him obviously knowing that, yes, maybe I'm losing Tevin in this moment because I couldn't convince people to go for Tiff. Now I've got to go back to camp and Tiff, and eventually Tiff is going to find out. She's eventually going to find out that I was snaking her and I was trying to get out of the game. And he didn't want to deal with the repercussions of his actions. He didn't want to go back to the beach for Tiff to confront him, because that's going to be a heated conversation next episode. Tiff's not going to have any of it.
Oh,
like, Kenzie!
Yeah, that was so good. That was so good at Tribal. Kenzie, why don't you come over here for a second? Let me tell you something. That was so good. It's incredible. I mean, that whole tribal, I was literally screaming at my TV more than I think I ever have in a while. Usually
it was a good tribal council.
Yeah.
And I didn't know where it was going to go. I was so confused by the end of it. Like, I think Jeff was confused, and they all knew that there were a couple of different people up for grabs. Mm-hmm. Are you guys, like, I don't know. I feel like I was like more surprised by the fact that they actually stuck to the Tevin vote. Like, I thought somebody was going to switch up. They were going to do something different. It was a live tribal council, but they somehow still went in the direction that they were going to go into, heading into tribal council. And then you also have the added layer. Will Hunter try and save Tevin? He didn't do that. So there were so many different outcomes that could have played out here. Like, in my mind, I was thinking, what if Hunter plays an idol for Tevin and Tiff ends up playing an idol for herself? Like, where does the vote go? Like, who's next in line? Like, it could have
Venus.
played out as
Venus.
yeah. And this is one thing I will say. I think again we've gone an hour into this podcast before we compared the two shows, which is good. It means we're improving. It means that the season of Survivor 46 is improving compared to what it was prior to the merge, because we were comparing it a lot. But if you compare Survivor US to Australian Survivor, 1 or 2 idols were getting played in this tribal council, 100%, because the players in Australian Survivor,
the second that everybody started standing up, Ferris would have taken out his idol and wore it around his neck.
100%. Yeah. Like, Australian Survivor players are not afraid to make big bombastic moves and play the ammunition in their pockets. Survivor US, it feels like people are so, and that's why in the new era we hardly ever see idol plays successful, because no one is willing to play them. No one is willing to actually make moves with it. We've got more advantages in the game than what we've ever had, but we've got people less willing and wanting to use them. So I just feel like if this was a season with an Australian Survivor cast, we would have seen some idol plays. We would have seen something happening in this moment when the tribal got live. Like, it would, I don't know. Like, is that the feeling you get as well, Jake? I know you watch the latest season of Survivor as well. Is that a fair sort of criticism or observation?
Yeah, I think that's a fair observation. That's if this were to have happened on Australian Survivor, yeah, there would have been some idols coming out. There would have been something crazy, some crazy vote outcome. And you could say that the reason for that are a few different things. Maybe, since Australian Survivor casts more people that aren't huge fans of the show, that they
50-50 very much. Yeah.
That they get a bit trigger happy. I should say that when something kind of goes off the rails, they're like, okay, we're going with it, Or you could say, with this specific moment in American Survivor with Q, I think everybody was just so fed up with the fact that this was even necessary to talk about, that they're just like, can we just not deal with this right now? Like, Q, just stop. Just stop. Let's stick to what we were doing, and just not even have to deal with this, changing of plans crap.
Yeah. 44 had the idol play. 44 had the idol play at the beginning of that season from memory.
It did. It had 2. It had the very first episode, and then with Brandon, and then later Danny ironically played it for Franny to voted out Brandon. So Brandon idled out somebody and then got idled out himself. So there were 2.
one season. It's one season that,
and I think that those are the only 2 successful idol plays the entire new era. I don't think there's been another. Yeah, I don't think there's been any others.
And they've had a lot of idols.
Josh as well. Yeah, as Jay's saying.
All right. Yes. Yeah. I completely forgot about Josh.
Actually there were 3. Yeah, that's a lot.
It's definitely an outlier season when it comes to that. But yeah, like I said, interesting episode with Q wanting to walk away from it. And Tevin, let's talk about Tevin for a little bit here. Like, I was shocked when Tevin was the one who actually went home, because in my mind, I still thought Tevin had the ability to win the season. Like, I was this whole season, like, again, I take my hat off to Survivor US. One thing they do better than any other show, and I don't know if I necessarily love it, because they hide the votes sometimes, and I don't know why a vote's going in a certain direction. This time they didn't hide it, because what happened at Tribal Council was confusing enough to create enough doubt in people's minds if Tevin was still going to go home or not. But they're really good at hiding the winner, like really good at hiding the winner. Like, I don't know who's the front runner now, Kuna. Were you as shocked as me when Tevin was the person who ended up going home in this moment?
Yeah, I was, because I wasn't in one sense, because I was really hoping, like, I like Tiff. I was really hoping Tiff. I know we always get our 50-50. It's either going to be, they plant in the edit, it's either Tevin or it's Tiff, and they give you kind of the playoff who it's going to be. So at least there's a little bit of 50-50 suspense. So I was hoping it was Tevin, so I wasn't as shocked, because that's where I was kind of, hoping it would go. But he was a really good player in the game, but Liz again just randomly out of nowhere just decides a thing, and apparently like I said last week, for last week, it wasn't her moves, it was her decision, but this was definitely her instigating, her kicking it off, her starting that. And a player the magnitude of Tevin, like, she's right in her call that people see him that way, it's going to be a great move for her. So I think it's a great play. It's a really good move, and it caused so much chaos with Q being part of the six, getting targeted, and all that sort of thing. It was, yeah, it was
I feel
crazy.
like we're seeing the Jesse and Cody alliance and Tevin and Hunter being figured out a lot earlier in the game, and the Jesse of the season just got voted out, and the Cody of the season is still there. So it's so interesting how this is played out, where they're just taking the threat out so much earlier than usual. Like you'd see an Omar or a Jesse get quite deep into the game. And I applaud the cast for making the move this early on and snuffing him out, because he is someone that I think if he got to the end with his social game would have had a really good chance to win this season. And he's very articulate. So, when you look at the beginning of the season, when he spoke about Survivor and what it is and all that, there's a reason they gave him that sort of opening scene where he was talking to the camera. So, yeah, it's now a wide open race here. A lot of people have said Kenzie. I saw earlier in the live people mentioning Kenzie as a potential winner now. And there have been people that have been on Kenzie from the start of the season. Q blowing up his game in the way that he did here, Jake, is this a good thing for Kenzie? Because Tiff always felt to me like she was more on the side of Q than Kenzie. She had both of their backs, but I always felt like she was going to go with Q. So I haven't seen the road to the end for Kenzie up until this moment, but Q making this big mistake. Is this where Kenzie now starts taking control in the game potentially and working with Tiff? Maybe Tiff and Kenzie together, they're not as intimidating as a Hunter or a Q. More people will maybe want to work with them. Charlie and Maria maybe would bring them in. They just don't seem as threatening, even though socially and strategically they can be.
Yeah, I think that this is pretty objectively good for Kenzie in terms of her relationship with Tiffany. I don't think she no longer has to worry about Tiffany choosing between the two. She's definitely choosing Kenzie if it comes down to it. It could happen as early as next episode where Tiffany is like, all right, this guy has to go. But one thing that worries me about Kenzie is the fact that she's with Tiffany. And I think Tiffany has bothered quite a few people with throwing out names like Maria. I think that Maria and Charlie probably are not too keen to working with Tiffany, and probably that means they're not too keen on working with Kenzie. So Kenzie's got Ben, it seems like. I don't know where the hell Liz stands with everybody else. I think, it's Liz just came out and was like, guys, this is who we're voting for. Everyone said, okay. And then she didn't really build any relationships.
Yeah.
I don't think it was. I think it was one of those situations where she said it, but everyone was like, yes, it wasn't like her convincing anyone. They were like, Kevin, absolutely happy to do it
for sure. Yeah.
But all they needed was the word, and so it wasn't like Liz orchestrated. She's just like, Kevin is like, yep, cool, that's a great choice, thank you.
Yeah. So I think Kenzie. I think actually just in general, really, this game is so up in the air right now.
I love it.
I love it.
I really am loving the way the game is shaping up. I want to go back and read some more comments because we've had so many great comments come in since the last time we checked in with the live. Nunes here says that, Chris, I don't think you were surprised as Tevin himself. I do agree. Kiwi says, I didn't think Tevin was going to win, so wasn't so shocked to see him leave. So Kiwi was never that high on Tevin from the start. Scott, welcome to the live. It's always good to have you here. Says, despite her flaws, I love Venus. And you're one of many people. And I think we said it earlier on, Scott. You weren't in the live when we said it. We see the flaws in Venus's game, and we don't think she's a great player, but damn is she entertaining. We would see her back any season because she's at least bringing something exciting to the show. Then Danica says, is Liz tight with Hunter? We haven't seen it. Like the boys just said here, that, probably the biggest mistake for Liz was not solidifying anything, at least not solidifying anything on camera that we're aware of when it comes to an alliance moving forward in the game. She's made the move. Well, applause to you, Liz, for that move, but how do you get to the end from here? Because you've now claimed or taken out the big threat. You probably become a bit of a big threat, and you've got no one who's got your back in the game.
Now she's just gonna go back into the shelter now.
Yeah.
That's what she said herself. She's like, I've just been chilling in the shelter this whole time, but today I actually decided to get up off my ass and try to make something happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Luciana saying it was almost poetic that Tevin was so annoyed with Venus for taking credit, that he annoyed Liz taking credit, and she wanted to vote him out. We spoke about that earlier on. Hello says Liz voted against Hunter, but Hunter doesn't have many options. Also says Kenzie's the only person that is rootable right now to win, followed by Maria and Tiff. Who do you boys want to win? Is Kenzie your favorite person in the game at this stage? I still love Hunter. I still think Hunter is a fun character, but I just don't see the way for him to win. Who do I like? Who are you guys shouting for? Like, I don't dislike Kenzie. Is likable. She helped Ben out. She was good. I don't know if I've got like anybody that's like, I'm like, this person have to win. Like, I'm just in it for the ride at this stage. Like, I feel that like there isn't many people who would win right now that I wouldn't be happy about. Like, let me put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of the same way. I think if somehow Q were to win this season, I think it would go down as one of the most insane seasons ever. I think, like you said, I really like Hunter, just as a contestant on the show, but I think I need
He's very relatable.
Yeah, and I think I need to see more out of him. Like he needs to make some sort of move. I think
I agree.
Right now it sort of seems like you said, it's like, oh, he like idles his way or keeps winning challenges, but doesn't really make any big moves happen, and then he just wins just because he's likable. I don't know. That's not too captivating to me. But I do like Hunter. I would say Kenzie or Tiffany. I like them as both characters and players. I think they've had good reads.
I agree with
in
you
the game, and so I think probably those two. I'm rooting for right now. Yeah.
No one's mentioned Charlie.
I like Charlie. Yeah, but like Charlie. Too much Taylor Swift. I like Taylor Swift, but don't need to mention it so much.
Mine's probably Tiff. I like Tiff at the moment. I like Kenzie, but I didn't see her, I guess, early on enough. I felt like she was just being dragged along. She wasn't making moves, kind of in the Hunter vein as well. Whereas Hunter's strength is obviously challenges and physical. Kenzie's is social, but she's not making the moves to go along like the strategy side with it. Whereas I think someone like Tiff had that aura about her, but hasn't really paid off. Maria, I do think is very competent, but I'm worried about her edit because everything we see from the Maria and Charlie combo, we get Charlie's narration. Charlie's telling it. Charlie's like the voice of that combo when it feels like Maria should be the decision maker. Like I got the vibe that Maria.
She's got the network. She's got the social connections, but he gets the reasoning and the logical strategic side behind it, if that makes sense. That's kind of the balance between the two of them, which is interesting. It's a good call out as well. I wouldn't, like I said, there's not anybody that I would dislike. I mean,
I wouldn't want Liz to win. And I wouldn't want Ben to win.
Yeah, I guess she's got a... Either. Really? I don't...
No, that would not rock for me.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. He's probably not had much of an edit. I think Venus winning would be absolutely freaking wild. Like after, like you would have podcasters doing deep dives. Like, can you imagine who's the guy from Robert's podcast? Like how Blank
Bloomberg?
won? Can you? Yeah, Bloomberg. Can you imagine Bloomberg doing a how Venus won Survivor? Like, I reckon his brain would hurt because of all the mistakes she's made throughout the game.
Series.
It's like he would probably have to like completely wipe the floor and be like, the old rules for how Blank won does not apply to New Age Survivor anymore. I'm going to have to create new rules on how to play Survivor if she won.
Like the show with like a big bottle of whiskey next to him. You can just tell he's
it's either going to be a 50-part series or it's going to be a 5-second video where he just goes, I don't know. I don't know how she won, but she did.
It's like, like I can't even fake to pretend like I know how she won this thing. Like I'm as much in the dark as you guys are. Jay here says apparently people have said that Kenzie's Edgic chart is very similar to Yam Yam's right now, so her winning chances look good. So those are the people that are looking at Edgic. Very interesting, but there is no such thing as a winner's edit, Jay. So I don't think we can rely on Edgic at all when it comes to it. Luciana says, hello, Maria was weird last episode, thinking she was HOH or something after winning immunity. Different show. Hello saying throwing your game for someone is more valued than outing someone's idol. So I think if Tiff is smart, she will realize Q made a mistake and saved her. Yes, be mad, but look after the big picture. I think Q didn't really care for Tiff. I think he cared about Tiff probably confronting him back at the beach, and I think him not getting his way. That's my read on it. I could be wrong. I don't think he did it in Tiff's best interest necessarily. I think he did what he thought was best in his
because
interest.
Charlie told her, yeah, he told us you have an idol. Why else would he do that unless he would potentially want to vote you out? There's no reason to ever release that information unless it's in the context of potentially voting you out.
Yeah. Fiddlestick says here, Liz said that Soda's elimination was her move, not merely that she was a part of it.
She goes back and forth. Like at the very beginning, she's like, I did this. I have been saying since day one that I want to Soda out. But then later on, she's like, okay, fine. I was in the background. Yeah, I've been playing somebody else's game. Tevin made this move. I'm getting lost in the shuffle, but not anymore. She kind of contradicts herself there. I think her ego, or like maybe she was sort of like Venus, where like she really did think it was, and then later she realized, oh wait, it actually wasn't at all.
She thinks she did it, but she thinks they're not giving her the credit for it. They're seeing it that she's lost in the shuffle. She's worried that's how it's
I see. So when she was saying that, she was saying it from their point of view.
She's worried that's how it will be looked at, but I definitely did it. Like that's
this season is so messy, man. It's so good.
Yeah.
Just want to bring up here, Sarah says, Chris, I agree with you. Love Venus as a character, but she's not winning. But some people think she's Parvati and she can. I don't see it. Some people are really lost in the sauce, Sarah. Like, I mean, they see two beautiful, young-looking women, and they're like, they look exactly the same. There's certain characteristics. They're clearly the same person out there. I get so annoyed personally when people compare players to Parvati, because there is only one Parvati. Like, there's never been another Parvati. Like, I don't think anybody has ever been able to emulate that game. Just like I don't think anybody's ever going to be able to emulate Boston Rob's game. No one's going to be able to emulate Sandra's game or Tony's game. Those are like the legends of the game. Like, and there's a reason they're legends. They're their own unique characters. I think production looks for people like that, but Venus is not. She's not close to. She doesn't have that levels to her game. Maybe in the future, who knows? But a lot of people have said she's probably closer to Eliza, which I do agree with. The more I think about it,
Kiwi just said that in the chat actually.
Yeah, Kiwi says Maria is who I think will win at the moment. Charlie and Kenzie are my favorites, though. A lot of people have been on Maria early on as well. Hello also says Maria also reminds me of Heidi from 44. I'm shocked no one compares them. I can see that. It'll be an interesting season if both of them were in there. Heidi definitely is someone that had a really strong season towards the end as well. So let's see what happens towards the end of this one. Yeah, pulled a Chris Underwood, but just didn't get the win at the end. Chris says, I have no prediction on who wins, and I don't think I care who wins. I'm along for the ride. I'm with you, Chris. That's exactly how I'm feeling at the moment. Let's see if there's a few more that I can bring up here before we start closing off. Arnuna says, do you think finale will be more of a split vote than we've seen in recent seasons? No, 0 votes. I just think we're too far away to be able to make those predictions at this point.
And also, like, there's always a 0 vote. Like, I feel like the jury doesn't like to have... They don't like the prospect of having 3 different choices. So I think they sort of have to eliminate somebody in their mind to where it's like, okay, it's between these two. I just don't
If there was a season, though, for it, this would be the one.
Yeah. It's just how many times in a final 3 have we ever had all 3 people receiving votes? The only one I can think of right now, only ones I can think of are China and...
Didn't Samoa?
Heroes.
I think Samoa... No, I think maybe not. I don't remember if who was the doctor that got to the end with Natalie and Russell.
Mick? I don't think he received votes.
No, I don't think he got a vote. No, I don't think.
I think the other one is HHH with Chrissy, Ben, and Ryan. That's the only ones I can think of. I just don't think it just is really going to happen.
Yeah, it's too far out.
If you look at the numbers, I don't even know how this happened, but there's 3 from each of the original tribes left.
Yep.
If they and it doesn't seem to be sticking together in those 3s either, right? So it could actually imagine if it got down. This is like wild out there. I mean, hot take, but if it got down and one person from each original tribe is in the final 3, you could definitely have a no vote thing.
Yeah, like that's
what I mean?
fair.
Like, yeah,
unless it's Q.
Yeah. Jay, I know. I was being, I was teasing you when it comes to the winners edit. Obviously, I don't believe Jeff when it comes to, the no winner edit. Kiwi also says too early to predict. A lot of chaos in the game still to happen. I mean, we've not been able to predict who would go home next at the stage. How the hell are we going to predict where the votes are going to go at the end of the season? We also have Frank in the live. Frank Welcome says Liz is used to operating as a CEO, where she just states her vision and her team does the work. So she realized, I'm actually going to have to do the groundwork this time. And I agree. And like I said earlier, I think Liz is also showing why she is a CEO and why she is someone that's created businesses, because those people don't sit back and let stuff happen. They first have to go out there and put in the work for something to, there's a lot of the times people look at business owners as like these greedy people at the top and they do all these bad things, but we don't think about the fact that if they didn't exist, there would be absolutely no work for people out there in the first place. Someone's got to take the risk. Someone's got to go out there and actually start something and not just sit back, right? So Liz in this moment showed why she is a CEO, why she is someone that is an entrepreneur and that have created businesses, because you can't just sit back. You have to act on it. And those people all have egos. None of them are reasonable people. Reasonable people do not create multiple businesses and become very successful. I don't know if it's been verified if she really is this big entrepreneur. I mean, I remember Russell Hahn saying that he was like a oil tanking company CEO and he had all these different businesses. And then afterwards, I don't know if that was actually the case, to be honest with you, when things started coming out. So who knows if Liz is actually who she claims to be, but it's not a winning strategy telling people you've got money. I can tell you that much. Hello says Venus has gone from zero charm, not poverty. Maybe she's a goddess like poverty, but that's not enough. Daryl also says if Q and Venus wins, the same person should be able to win the lottery every week. Q and Venus needs to sit in the end with Liz. I think that's the biggest chance for them to potentially win, right? That is the winning move. I don't know if they're seeing it that way at the moment. Jay says that's why Liz is a billionaire. And then Nuna's asking, did you see next episode is titled Spicy Jeff? Wonder what happens. I've got a feeling he's going to get annoyed with Q, most likely. This is what I think is going to happen. But that is it here for this week. We've covered everything for episode 8. It's been great talking about it with everybody in the live. I hope everybody's enjoyed it. If you do like our content, if this is the first time you've come across our channel, please subscribe. It's absolutely free. It helps us get more, recognition out there when we want to reach out to guests to come onto the channel in the future. That's the biggest reason why we sort of want to continue to grow it from a subscriber standpoint. But besides that, leave a comment if you're watching this after the live. Let us know what you agree with, what you don't agree with, what you're thinking. I do go and read as many of the comments as I can, and I try and respond to as many as I can after each one of these recaps as well. Let us know in the comment section below, who do you think is going to win this season based off the edits so far and where we've seen the game unfold up until. Can you even predict at this stage? I'm kind of interested in that. And then put the notification bell on. That will let you know next time that we do go live and do one of these. And then everybody that was in the live, the Jays, the Chris's, the Lucianas, Kiwis, everybody, Danica, Scott, who also came into this late on, everybody that was here. I really appreciate it. The podcast is so much more fun when we have people in the live engaging with us and taking part in the conversation, and really appreciate you guys for that. So have a great week. Next week you will be joined by Kahuna and Jake alone. I won't be here. I'm doing a Spartan race over in Sydney, so I won't be able to podcast. And then the same for the challenge. It's going to be Kahuna and Drew from the Angel Cake Entertainment channel. They're going to be doing the challenge content next weekend as well. So it'll be not next week, 2 weeks from now. I'll see everybody again, but you're in good hands with Kahuna, Jake, and Drew for next weekend. But thank you, everybody. Grab your torches, head back to camp, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.